Welcome to Read the Future. In this new series, we'll be breaking down books about politics, public affairs, and also philosophies. In this first episode, we'll be breaking down a book called Propaganda versus Persuasion, written by Garth, Jowett, and Victoria O'Donnell. Now, you may ask yourself, why this book? And why this topic? I would like to quote page 20 of this book. Page 20 says, "One person's propaganda may be another person's education." Now that's very deep because propaganda surrounds us, whether it's in politics, advertising, warfare, or even pop culture. Now the authors break it down not just as lies or as manipulation, but as a sophisticated form of communication. And in this age, of digital saturation, understanding it is no longer optional, but it's survival. Let's break down propaganda according to the book. Now, page 7 of the book says, propaganda is the deliberate, systematic attempt to shape perceptions, manipulate cognitions, and direct behavior to achieve a response that furthers the desired intent of the propagandist. Now, I'd like to break down a few of the words used in this text. The first one I want to break down is deliberate. When something is deliberate, it's intentional, never accidental. This is something that was meant to be or meant to happen like that. And when we talk about systematic, this is something that is structured, strategically to form a desired end result. And when we talk about manipulative, we talk about something that's not necessarily deceitful, but something that will guide your perception to look at something a certain way, right? Now, propaganda is like lighting, stage lighting at a play. It does not necessarily change the scene, but it controls what you see as the audience. The goal is to create a specific reaction in an audience, whether it's emotional, whether it's behavioral, often done without the awareness. This is a very, very subtle style of manipulation. Let's break down the differences between these two. Now, according to page 1 of the book, the authors say propaganda is one-sided and goal-orientated. Persuasion is dialogic. It respects the needs of the audience. Now, persuasion is like a dance, and propaganda is a puppet show. While persuasion, invites consideration, propaganda drives towards a predetermined conclusion. Propaganda says this color is black, while persuasion says this color might be black. Persuasion considers the needs of the audience, while propaganda considers the needs of the propagandist or the person that speaks to the audience. The term propaganda originally meant to propagate in Greek or Latin, and this was associated with the religious missions of the 1600s. Page 2 of the book, as I called it, says, the Vatican established the Sacra Congregatio de Propaganda Fide to spread Catholic faith. Now, if we look at this thing in a modern view, think of modern brands pushing eco-consciousness or political campaigns using freedom as a buzzword. Now, this is the same strategy, just repackaged for a modern crowd. Let's also break down the 3 types of propaganda. Now, we have white propaganda, we have gray, and we also have black propaganda. Now, what is white propaganda? This is truthful information with a known source. This is like a tour guide with an agenda. You know, when the tour guide tells you we are in Paris, we are going to visit the Eiffel Tower. This is truthful because you are going to the Eiffel Tower and you will see it for yourself, right? And then let's hop into gray propaganda. Now, this is ambiguous origin or truth. You know, it's an influencer using a hidden sponsor. Or have you seen when a news journalist says, sources say, you know, without disclosing the source? That's the gray propaganda. And when it's black propaganda, this is false information. So a false source as well. This is catfishing the information, of the world, dressing it to look like something it's not, or making it sound like it's what it's not. This is used a lot in, social media, whether it's clipping a 10-second, clip from a 1 hour interview just to make people think that what was said in that 10 seconds, concludes the whole conversation. Now, black propaganda is the big lie, including all types of creative deceit. This is a quote from page 21 of the book. Now, we can use references like the Ghost Army. In page 22 to 23, if you read the full book, you will see the story of the Ghost Army when inflatable tanks were used in the World War II to mislead the Nazis. As a visual anecdote, if you think about what this does, this would be like seeing, something that's supposed to be threatening. But because you're seeing it from afar, you're seeing a tank, you think war is about to happen. This will allow you, or let's say allow the propagandist to make people think, that there is a possible war. Right. So propaganda can shape also our thoughts and behavior. This quote from the book, page 8, says, slogans, posters, symbols, and even architectural structures are developed during wartime and resistant movements. War on terror. Let's just reflect on that phrase, war on terror. This phrase taps into fear, patriotism, and moral duty. It influences the reader or the audience or the civilian to act against something or to think towards something. Now, there are also things like visual propaganda. This is the show and not the telling type of propaganda. Page 11 of the book says visuals can bypass rationality and drive instant judgment. On page 10 of the book, a designer built a 250,000 set for General Tommy Franks. This was the Iraq's briefing to shape perception. This is almost like the how can I refer to this? This is like the posters, right? The war posters that they used to use back in the days, in the world wars. The slogans, the visual images of places that were attacked by by war, just to influence perception and to shape it, to make people think it's really bad, when it's sometimes not as bad as people say it is. And I also want us to break down the techniques that are kind of used in propaganda. I would also like to make episodes on these techniques because I believe that these are important and these are very, very well used, or sometimes they are used too much in the news. I mean, you've heard some of these for yourself. Now, the first one is name calling. This is labeling your opponent. The most famous, name calling is when they call someone an enemy of the state. You know, sometimes that person is not really an enemy of the state. Um, the reason this is propaganda is because we've seen US use this a lot, especially when it comes to Iraq, or when it came to Afghanistan, you know. And then the second one, it's glittering generalities, using vague or emotionally appealing words like freedom, a freedom fighter, words like collateral damage, words like structural reform. They hide the atrocity behind the action and just give you, you know, a nice buttered word that doesn't really tell you the depth of what it means. And then let's talk about transfer. Now, transferal propaganda, this is like associating symbols with messages. When you transfer something, you are giving designation to what is supposed to represent the people, and you are designating it to an idea to make those groups or a group of people, feel like if you go for this, then you are this type of person. A good example I can use is the conservatives flag in America. Um, this is a good example because people that use that flag are for the same cause and they speak towards the same cause. And then this is testimonial. The next one is testimonial propaganda. This is when political leaders will use celebrity endorsements. We've seen this with US politics where Kamala Harris or even Donald Trump um, used celebrities, artists to endorse them in politics. This is not really that big in South Africa, but in US, it's crazy. This shows you how people idolize, celebrities. And then the fifth one is plain folks. The I'm one of you political, messaging, and this one is the most hilarious out of all of them because this will be a rich dude, or a wealthy dude telling you that I am one of you. I understand your struggle. I've been there. Where else you are fighting from the ground and, your voice is not being heard. And it's very, very clear, you know. And then the sixth one, I feel like the sixth one is the most influential of them all. This is the most dangerous technique. This is the bandwagon effect. This is when people say, everyone is doing it. Why aren't you? You know, um, everyone is voting ANC. Why aren't you voting ANC? The bandwagon effect will lead other people to think they are being left behind. And those who are in the bandwagon will think, no, we are driving the right course. You who are not in the bandwagon, you don't know what you are following. We are the everyone and we know what we are doing. You don't know. That's the bandwagon effect. And it will lead more people to be persuaded into thinking that, maybe I also need to do this. Maybe I also need to vote for this. Or maybe I am wrong and everyone else is right just because I am in the smaller group. Or sometimes it doesn't even need to be a small group. This could just be a group of very influential people leading this idea. Now, let's also highlight some digital age propaganda. These are things like, memes and viral videos, used as ideological tools. We've seen this with the peanut meme used as a blockchain coin, the peanut coin, by Donald Trump. So I think this was in 2020 or 2022 or 2019, somewhere during these ages when a squirrel was swatted in some guy's apartment. And then the government took that squirrel. I don't know. They said it was a national security threat. And so Donald Trump used that squirrel as a meme to push his ideology. And then he used it as, what do they call this? A coin, a meme coin. Yeah. So now it's a thing. Now it's called the peanut coin because the squirrel was called Peanut the squirrel. And then the other one is called astroturfing. Now this is fake grassroots support. You know, when a political leader will use people, or will go to a township and gather people in his shirts, wearing his shirts, his caps, his beanies, whatever. Gather these people, take a video, and make the audience think, you know what, I am standing here with my people or your people, and we are all saying that vote what. This is a very, very also mostly used form of propaganda. It's called astroturfing. And then the third one is algorithmic echo chambers. This is reinforcing, ideologies. For instance, when something trends online, even if you are not, the associate of that type of trend, or you are not a casual viewer of a certain type of trend, this casually pops up on your feed. This is the echoing chamber that they talk about. This will reinforce the ideology that they're trying to push out, because if you see it a lot of times, you'll end up thinking it's true, And there's also one called cyber terrorism. Now, this is what I would label the fourth, digital age propaganda. This is the using of fear and misinformation to destabilize. Now, because of AI, we have a lot of this. We can get clips of, Donald Trump saying something he didn't say. We've seen a lot of these, clips of, the fake bombing at the Pentagon, that happened in 2020, and it made people think that there was a war happening, where else the picture was artificially generated. Cyber terrorism is a crazy, crazy type of propaganda, because in this day and age, people can't even tell what's real or fake. I mean, scientific studies have even proven that humans can't tell the difference between real or fake. And I feel like this is crazy, considering that nowadays AI is literally everywhere. So how can you recognize propaganda next time you are either reading an article, scrolling through social media, or watching the news? Well, you must first ask, who benefits from this information I am reading, watching, or listening to? And is the source transparent? Can I go proofread for myself? And if I do, will I get the same information that you put out? The third question you should ask yourself is, are the facts manipulated? Am I getting the story the way it is supposed to be told? Or am I only getting a biased side of the story? The fourth question to ask yourself is, does it appeal more to emotion than reason? Now, this one is very, very important, because propaganda uses emotion to influence people's decisions or to manipulate people's decisions. And so this is where reason is important. Because if what you're listening to, reading, or seeing appeals more to the emotion, let me make an example. When you see a poster of a baby or a mother holding a baby, an 18-month-old baby, in the ruins of Ukraine after the post-war, you need to look at the picture and think, does this appeal to my emotion or does this appeal to my reasoning? This will allow you to not only see the picture from an emotional stand view, but also from a reasonable stand view, because you will start to understand when you see donate to the cause. You need to ask yourself, what cause am I actually donating to? Don't just see the picture and fall for it, right? So let me just give you an outline of, why books like this matter. Books about propaganda don't just define it, These arm you with the tools to critically analyze the media and the environment. In today's information warfare era, this is more vital than ever. If you can't recognize propaganda, chances are it's already working on you. Now, thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like me to do more breakdowns about other books that you may be interested in, please do give me the book titles and I will definitely read through them and give you a critical breakdown. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to answer, and I will do so in the next video. Thank you once again for listening. Until next time.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.